Thanks so much for being with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie here on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. I'm Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani. Today is May 13th. I know that's not a great revelation to anyone who's listening, but just in case you didn't know, it is the anniversary, the 99th anniversary of the first appearance of our Blessed Mother, the Virgin Mary, to the three children at Fatima. And we're going to be talking about that today. We're going to talk about the apparitions. We're going to talk about the message, because Mary gave a very, very important message for the world and for each of us individually as Christians. And then we're going to get into the question of whether or not the requested consecration, Mary requested that the world and Russia in particular be consecrated to her Immaculate Heart. And Debbie, there is still no small amount of debate going on in certain circles as to whether or not that's happened. So we're going to get into all of that on today's program. Should be an interesting discussion.
I think it's going to be a great one, and we're bringing on an expert, and I always love that. So this conversation is going to go to new heights because of you, dear listeners. So if you've heard of the story of the children, of their apparitions, Our Lady of Fatima, this is the anniversary, like Jerry said, and it's really important for us to continue the conversation going. So we need your help. You can dial in once you hear how the conversation is taking shape, but don't hesitate. Don't wait too long because lines fill up. 1-800-585-9396.
Well, we have someone with whom many of you are very familiar. He's been on EWTN radio and television many times. I was blessed to have him as a professor when I attended Franciscan University of Steubenville. Dr. Mark Miravalle, he is a husband, a father of 8, permanent deacon, and he earned his sacred theological doctorate at the Pontifical University of St. Thomas Aquinas in Rome. He's been at Steubenville since 1986, and he is one of the church's leading Mariologists as president of the International Catholic Movement Vox Populi Maria Mediatrix, which is a voice of the people for Mary Mediatrix. So, without further delay, Dr. Mark Miravalle, welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Thank you, Jerry and Debbie. It's a pleasure to be with you both.
Well, as a Mariologist, I know you have I recall fondly your great devotion to Our Lady, and today is just a very special day, really, for all of us. Talk just in general, Mark, about the just what we commemorate today.
Yeah, Jerry and Debbie and our listeners, it's a huge day. I mean, it's a historic day. May 13th of 1917 started what most would consider the most important Marian apparitions in the whole age of Mary. And that's never to put, Our Lady of Fatima over Our Lady of Lourdes, for example, but it is to, in a certain sense, state that the messages of Fatima, all true messages that the Church approved that lead up to Fatima, really are preparing for the Fatima message. And all true apparitions since the Fatima message seek the fulfillment, which is the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And so it really is a hallmark day, and if we didn't have enough concrete evidence of the many fulfillments of prophecies that have happened at Fatima, we have one very concrete event that happened on May 13th of 1981, and that was the assassination attempt of St. John Paul II, which was prophesied at Fatima. So we've got some very good reasons to believe strongly in the message of Fatima, and certainly the Holy Fathers have, as continues with our present Holy Father, with Pope Francis.
Wow, this is going to be a great conversation. We've got Dr. Mark Miravalle with us. He's the leading Mariologist. Boy, that's a huge title. I want to call you doc. I feel like I need to call you deacon or doctor. I know Jerry can call you by first name, but I don't feel that privilege yet. But
yeah, you can call me whatever you want, Debbie. But Jerry only feels that because he likes to boast that I'm older than he's, just by deduction, because he was in my class. But we're all students of the truth of Our Lady. In fact, I remember doing a live show with Mother Angelica, and we were about to go on, and we were doing it on the Blessed Mother, and I said, Mother, I hope we can do our Blessed Mother justice. And Mother's typical quote was, "Honey, we'll never do Our Lady justice. Let's just try to do our best." And so I feel the same way. I mean, it's always an honor to talk about Our Lady, but we're all students of this. But in terms of importance, yeah, it's big time. The importance of Our Lady for peace in the world, for the new evangelization, this 100th year anniversary of Fatima coming up next year, it really deserves our attention. And I'm grateful that we're able to talk about it today on the program.
Well, dear listeners, this is your opportunity. Call in and share your experience, your understanding, your experience of the Our Lady of Fatima and what it means, the apparitions, what the children, what kind of feelings you felt when you heard the story. Because all of us, we were inspired by it. We were kind of curious as to why Our Lady chose those three, what happened, the cousins died right after that. I mean, why did all this happen? And so there's elements to it we want to talk about, and we have an expert on, and this is the perfect time. So dial in 1-800-585-9396.
All right, so we will welcome any questions that you might have about the Fatima message, the apparitions, the consecration. Of course, we're going to get into with Dr. Mark Miravalle at 1-800-585-9396. Mark, if you can just kind of give us a little bit of the history of it, how many apparitions there were, and Debbie raised something kind of, I think, very important as well, and that is how so often Jesus and God, they choose to send the Blessed Mother to the lowliest of the low, the least likely. So what about the visionaries and the number of apparitions and all of that?
Well, starting on the last point, you notice, Jerry and Debbie, that there's never been a church-approved apparition to a theologian. And that's with good reason. Because, if we got a message, we would kind of add what St. Thomas says and St. Augustine and Bonaventure and this, and you'd never get Our Lady's words. We'd mix it up with all of our theology. In fact, it is to the humble, to the poor oftentimes, to the less educated, that Our Lady chooses to be visionaries. Why? Because they will convey the message without addition or subtraction. They don't have the background to do that, and that makes them very pure channels of the message. So at Fatima, we have actually the three apparitions of he who's called the angel at Fatima, St. Michael, the archangel, the guardian angel of Portugal, which starts in 1916. And then in 1917, there are six major apparitions starting on today's anniversary, May 13th. And then October 13th was the great solar miracle witnessed by 70,000 people. Even the Masonic newspaper reporters from Lisbon lost their jobs for reporting the truth, and that is that the sun danced at Fatima. Our Lady also promised a seventh apparition, and that would happen on December 10th of 1925, where she would reveal the 5 First Saturday devotions, which are critically important for understanding and living the message of Fatima. And I might add, Jerry and Debbie, Sister Lucia gave an interview in 1999, some few years before she died, to a gentleman named John Hafford, who was the founder of the World Apostle of Fatima. And in this interview, she said something really fascinating. She said, we're only in the third day of the week of Fatima. And John Hafford said, well, what does that mean, sister? And she went on to explain briefly that the first day of Fatima was the day of the apparitions, the period of the apparitions themselves. Secondly, she said the second day of Fatima was the time between the apparitions and the consecration. And then she said the third day is since the consecration has happened to the present. She said there's still 4 more days to the fulfillment of Fatima. And I always found that a fascinating commentary by the principal visionary Fatima, and it's kind of confirmed by Pope Benedict XVI when he visited Fatima, emeritus now, of course, when he was asked, is the message of Fatima going on today? He said, yes, it is going on today, and it is eminently relevant to the 21st century. So these are all reasons why we're still living Fatima. We still have to be engaged with Fatima. The Pope's going to Fatima next year in honor of this 100th anniversary. So it's still a very relevant message for you and me and for the Church of the world.
Well, Dr. Mark, there's so many things I want to ask you, and because there's elements to this story of the visionaries and how they were not accepted initially in their community. Even I just found out recently, and I never knew this. I heard the Fatima story since I was a child, and I never heard that they were actually beaten for the fact that they held on to the truth of what they believed they saw. And I mean, there were so many elements to this. These kids really went through a lot to make sure that this message was given out to the community and out to the world.
Yeah, it's very true. And in fact, they were threatened with being killed in the what would have been the message of August 13th, but it was then delayed to August 19th, the Feast of St. John Eudes. But they were taken away by the police and threatened to be boiled in oil. One of the greatest persecutions that Lucia had was a persecution from her own mother, who did not believe her daughter. And can you imagine that as a 10-year-old, having to try to convince your own mother that these are happening, and that her own mother was unfortunately a very, very strong skeptic against these. So, yeah, the kids suffered intensely. And, it gets back to the message. And, we could ask the critical question, what is the message of Fatima? Well, the critical message is to pray the rosary daily, to offer everything, every single sacrifice as a sacrifice in reparation to God for sins and for the conversion of sinners, and in reparation to the offenses committed against the Immaculate Heart of Mary. She calls for consecration of the world, particularly Russia, to the Immaculate Heart. And also she calls for the First Saturday devotion. So it's really, it's a critical message. And as you mentioned, Debbie, very correctly, the kids suffered very much. And of course, two of them would be dead before age 10. They died of the plague that was throughout Europe at the time. And they died as victim souls. I mean, they said Francisco was a perpetual rosary machine. You couldn't see him when he wasn't praying the rosary. And Jacinta had tremendous suffering at the end of her life. All of this offered for souls. And that's why it's really a co-redemption message. It's a message of making of everything we can, a sacrificing, offering it to God in reparation for sins and for the conversion of sinners. And clearly, there's plenty of sin to be offered in our own age, and that's why the Fatima message is so relevant.
Yeah, you raised so many points that we would follow up on, but I see we have full phone lines right now, and a number of our callers are going to ask questions that actually Debbie and I were going to ask. So I think that's probably providential, Mark. So if you hang on for just a minute, we'll have our producer Rich Jesse roll our break here. Matt Gabensky is screening calls. Jeff Burson keeps us out there in front of people on social media. The Take Two with Jerry and Debbie team. 1-800-585-9396. Any questions about Fatima, the message that Our Lady gave to the world? What about the period of peace that was supposed to follow? Was the consecration done? The 3 secrets, the 5 First Saturdays. So much we can get into. Your takes and your calls are next. Glad you're with us.
The wisdom of Mother Angelica.
When our dear Lord pronounced these 7 last words, when he said, Father, in a very loud voice, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit, every drop of his blood had been shed. And when Longinus hit his heart with a lance, water and blood came out. Only a heart that ruptures can have water and blood come out. There was nothing left. You realize the miracle it took for Jesus to say in a loud voice those 7 words? If anyone lost half their blood, they'd be unconscious. They couldn't talk. Isn't that amazing, huh?
May is dedicated to our Blessed Mother. Visit EWTN's Facebook page to see the many ways EWTN viewers and listeners around the world are celebrating Mary's Month. #MayAltar.
Thanks, dear listeners, for being with us on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're talking about Fatima today on the 99th anniversary, and we have a leading Mariologist, Dr. Mark Miravalle, with us for the entire hour. And phone lines are lit up, and that's a great thing. So when open phone line comes up, please jump in at 1-800-585-9396. And first up to start off the conversation with all of us is Barbara listening to EWTN radio in Maryland on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Barbara. You're up with Jerry and Debbie and Dr. Mark Miravalle. Welcome.
Oh, hello, Debbie and Jerry and Dr. Mark Miravalle. My question is, my daughter was born on July 13th, and she always feels a little shy about mentioning that particular feast day because the children experienced the vision of hell and how traumatic that was. And she says to herself, I feel tied to such a sad event. And I tried to reveal to her, oh, no, honey, I really think it's an honor, because the children, by seeing that vision, and of course Our Lady saved them, their souls, they said they would have died if it wasn't for Our Lady's mercy, seeing such a horrific vision, but that after that, the impact of that, they made all the beautiful sacrifices. It changed them so dramatically for souls that were going to go there. And I wanted to ask Dr. Mark Miravalle if he could give us a little explanation as to why that's a good thing with the Fatima message.
Sure. Barbara, let me start. What is your daughter's name?
Avelina Marie.
Avelina, beautiful. Well, you have to tell Avelina Marie that July 13th is arguably the single most important message of Our Lady in the 20th century. It's a remarkable day because you can't just pull out the vision of hell. That's one aspect of it.
Right.
But this is the message of remedy. This is where Our Lady reveals that God wishes to establish devotion to my Immaculate Heart as a remedy to the vision of hell. I mean, with or without the vision, the reality of hell exists. Here's Our Lady coming and saying, let's save people. In order to save people, she literally says, God wishes to establish devotion to my Immaculate Heart. And on this day, on July 13th, is when she gives the great Fatima promise. That is, quote, in the end, my Immaculate Heart will triumph and a period of peace will be given to the world. So it's a victory day. It's a day of great blessing and peace. I mean, it's almost like a mother, watching kids on a freeway and saying, we got to get the kids off the freeway. Well, that's a very good thing. And there's a lot of kids playing on the freeway right now, and Our Lady comes and gives us the instructions of getting us off the freeway. That's a very positive thing. So she should feel honored and blessed and privileged to have July 13th as her birthday, because it's the day of remedy. It's the day where heaven offers us the heaven's peace plan. And as I said, arguably it's the single most important apparition in the whole 20th century.
Is that comforting, Barbara?
Extremely. Thank you so
We thank
much.
God. We thank God.
All right. Thanks, Barbara, for the call. We appreciate it. There's a line open there. Please join us. Your takes, your calls, your questions drive this program. 1-800-585-9396. Take two with Jerry and Debbie. We have Dr. Mark Miravalle on the program. We're talking about the apparitions of Mary that began on this day 99 years ago. The very, very important message. There was a question there about the visionary seeing hell. There are the three secrets of Fatima. There's been a lot of discussion and debate over what those were. Maybe you have made the 5 Saturday devotions. You want to share your experience about that. Or we can get into whether or not the consecration has been fulfilled, and I think that's what Teresa in Scranton, Pennsylvania wants to bring up right now. She's listening to EWTN Radio on JMJ Radio. Hi, Teresa. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you, Jerry and Debbie and Dr. Mark, for taking my call.
Sure.
What I'm wondering about is, was the Fatima message as far as consecrating Russia fulfilled? I've had a lot of discussion with a lot of people about it. Now, I believe it has been, and I have gone out to Catholic Family Land and done a lot of things with the Conikers, and I have a beautiful picture in my home of that. And I'm just wondering.
It's a good question.
I have a lot of people.
Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. It's a very critical question. It's a very important question. So let's do the background on it. So on that July 13th, 1917 anniversary, that original message of Fatima, Our Lady asked for the consecration of Russia to her Immaculate Heart by the Holy Father, and as a result, there would be peace in the world. If you look at the message, it also says, I come to ask for the consecration of Russia and the first of Saturday devotions. It's one line. And so we really have to know from the beginning that it's both the consecration and the continued living of the first Saturdays and those five first Saturdays devotion. Well, on let's go to March 25th of 1981. This is important. So, May 13th. On May 13th of 1981, Pope John Paul II has an assassination attempt, after which the Holy Father seeks to get all the information he could on Fatima. he said in his typical candor, he said, I was a Czestochowa boy. I loved Our Lady of Czestochowa. I didn't know very much about Fatima. But during his convalescence, he finds out about Fatima, and then he invites all the bishops of the world to join him in consecrating the world, inclusive of Russia, to the Immaculate Heart of Mary. And that happens on March 25th, 1984. Now, John Paul II, on a number of occasions, said he did fulfill the Fatima request. That's our first authority and our ultimate authority. Secondly, Sister Lucia, on at least 5 interviews, specified, yes, the Fatima consecration has been fulfilled. So, right from the beginning, Teresa, when you have the Vicar of Christ and you have the Principal Fatima Seer, who both confirm it's been done, then in faith and in peace, we have to grant it's been done. Now, the objection was that Russia was not specified. But Sister Lucia has a beautiful explanation of why it still was consecrated. Sister Lucia said it's like a priest consecrating the Eucharist at Mass. Which of the hosts get consecrated? And the answer is the ones that the priest intend. So it's up to the intention of the priest to see what is consecrated. And Sister Lucia said the same is true about John Paul II. In consecrating the world, he also intended Russia, and therefore the consecration has been fulfilled. So, to answer your question, yes, the consecration has been fulfilled. How do we know? Because John Paul II, who is now a saint, and Sister Lucia, the primary visionary, in at least 5 interviews, have confirmed that it's taken place. So I think our task now is to go forward in peace that has been taking place, and let's focus on the part 2. And the part 2 is continuing the 5 first Saturday devotions, which were part of the request of Our Lady of Fatima.
Does that help, Teresa?
Yes, thank you so much for giving me that wonderful explanation, and now I can give that out. And I always did believe that it was, and I just got the chills while I was sitting here listening to you talk about this. And thank you so much for your devotion.
We thank God.
And God bless you all.
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you, Teresa.
I just have to say, Teresa, I got the chills too. It's the Holy Spirit chills. Dr. Mark, that was an excellent explanation of it, and I want to just maybe we could just touch upon this idea of intention, because we can relate that to everything that has to do with us as human beings and God. With intention, it's everything. God understands that's the key component of it. We can use words and use all sorts of things in our world, but if the intention is there, that's what God sees. Can you just comment on that one more time? I think it's so important.
Yeah, sure, Debbie. And you're absolutely right. God sees the heart. And when John Paul II consecrated the world, it was obviously in response to the Fatima request. And I thought it was fascinating that Sister Lucia, who did not even have a 3rd-grade education, would give such a profound explanation of the fact that what the Holy Father intends is what's consecrated. It's also, historically interesting that one reason that John Paul II didn't mention Russia was because there had been an old diplomatic arrangement at the time of the Second Vatican Council that only if the Holy Office at that time, the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith of Vatican, agreed not to condemn communism, would the communist Eastern Bloc state allow those bishops to come to the Second Vatican Council. So one can, have a difference of opinion about whether that should have been made or not, but if it wasn't made, guys like Karol Wojtyła would not have been at Vatican II, who was the future John Paul II. So it was in deference to that at least it's discussed that the Holy Father didn't mention Russia, but it's not an issue. What's at issue is the Holy Father consecrated Russia because that was in his heart, and that's been confirmed by him, and it's been confirmed by Sister Lucia. And I think, Debbie, the problem when we don't grant that is
Mark, if you can hold that thought, forgive me. Yeah, forgive me. Sorry for jumping in there, Mark. This is the only break of the show. We are we're at this break's bidding. It's hard break, can't move it. So we're coming right back on Take 2 with Jerry and Debbie.
Hello, I'm Doug Keck, host of EWTN's Bookmark. I wanted to mention a new book that I wanted you to check out in time for the Jubilee of Mercy. It's a holy year in Rome, the complete Pilgrim's Guide for the Jubilee of Mercy by our one and only Rome correspondent, Joan Lewis of Joan's Rome. And in this book, Joan takes you back in time for a look at the history of Jubilees and then brings you up to the present with a visit to the 7 pilgrim basilicas of Rome, 4 of which must be visited by pilgrims to obtain a holy year indulgence. You'll discover the treasures of Rome and the Vatican, and you'll learn all about the many interesting facts, such as the difference between a church, a basilica, the significance of the holy doors, architecture, liturgical customs, and much, much more, as only Joan can bring them to life. Available through the EWTN Religious Catalog, EWTNRC.com. It's a holy year in Rome, the complete Pilgrim's Guide for the Jubilee of Mercy by the one and only Joan Lewis. Check it out.
After a fight with my wife, I was complaining to God. Why does it always have to be about her? Can it be about me? And God spoke to me, not audibly, but in my heart, and with words I'll never forget. He said, "You have every right to make it all about you, to put your own needs first. You have every right to be average, to be ordinary, and not to become a saint." Suffice it to say, I retracted my prayer. And in retrospect, I think God wasn't only calling me to holiness, but to happiness. The days I wake up and say, my wife is lacking these 5 traits of a perfect spouse, I should tell her. Those aren't my best days. The days I wake up and ask myself how I can make her the happiest wife on earth, I end up being the happiest husband. Go figure. Jesus said, whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. This is Chris Stefanik from RealLifeCatholic.com on EWTN Radio.
Always great to have you with us here every day on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Dr. Mark Miravalle, our guest. He is professor of theology and Mariology at Franciscan University of Steubenville, and also he is the president of the international Catholic movement, Vox Populi Maria Mediatrix. You notice, Mark, how that just rolls off my tongue after years of practice?
I was going to comment, Jerry, that you're the only one that pronounces that baby perfectly. But I didn't want to stroke your pride, so I didn't say anything.
I took care of that, don't worry. But real quick, before we go back to calls, what is Voice of the People for Mary Mediatrix?
Well, Jerry, this is a movement that really started in 1915. It's 100 years old, seeking to encourage the Holy Father to solemnly define that Mary is our spiritual mother. It's really very simple. It's a principle saying that with every definition regarding Our Lady, great historic graces have come upon the Church and the world. And so we're petitioning the Holy Father, always in respect and always in deference to his better judgment, petitioning him to make what is now the doctrine of Mary as our spiritual mother, to make that a solemn definition. And we're encouraged by Pope Francis. I mean, we leave that to God and to him, but his Marian love is so clear, and he talks about Our Lady as mother so often that I think there's a good possibility that he could be the one. But that's between God and him. But our task is to encourage people to pray and petition respectfully the Holy Father that indeed Our Lady will receive this dogmatic crown, that the Pope will solemnly define her as a dogma, that she is the spiritual mother of all peoples.
Wow, it's fascinating. Dr. Mark, right before the break, you said one last sentence that we had to go to the break. I just want to make sure because it's going to drive me crazy. It's my typical Catholic school upbringing. You said the problem is that you said something and then we had to go to break about the consecration. Can you just say that last sentence?
Surely, Debbie. Here's the issue. When we have St. John Paul II and Sister Lucia, who have both confirmed that the consecration was completed, when we question that, or let's say when we go against that, inadvertently, a certain sense of disobedience can enter our hearts, and we surely don't want that. Our Lady would be, talk about, the offenses against her Immaculate Heart. Her heart suffers so much, but she would never want anyone in her name, in her honor, to be doing anything that could be construed as disobedient to the Holy Father. So I think we really have to focus behind and get ourselves behind, again, what St. John Paul II has said, what Sister Lucia has said, that this has been done, and then go forward with the Fatima message, which, again, means we have to be offering our rosaries each day. We have to be doing the first 5 first Saturdays, and I'll say a quick word about those for our listeners who are not aware of what those are. But we don't want something that the Pope and the visionary have said is completed to perhaps prevent us from having a full spirit of obedience and positive efforts to trying to live the Fatima message today.
Right, right.
Can I quickly just go through those 5 first Saturdays? Would that be appropriate?
You
know what? We have a caller coming up who wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, so if you want,
let's wait on that then. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, because we do want to get into that, but let's see. Bill is in Buffalo. I'm sorry?
I said it's Bill in Buffalo then.
Yeah, Bill in Buffalo. I guess it's Buffalo Bill. Listening to Take Two on EWTN Radio on the Station of the Cross. Sorry, Bill, I had to do it. And thanks so much for your patience, Bill. You've been holding on a long time. How are you?
Yeah, I was calling to ask about the 3 secrets, if that's the number and exactly what they are. I was thinking, we've heard in the news lately about how Islamic State wants to do terrible things and take over Rome and behead the Holy Father and within 5 years and turn it into a bloodbath. And I'm thinking, is this anything to do with the secrets of Fatima?
Well, in fact, the 3 secrets of Fatima were originally given by Our Lady to Sister Lucia, to then the child Lucia, on that great July 13th message. That's why, again, it has such a prominence. The 3 secrets would include the vision of hell, the answer, the remedy, the consecration call, and then the third part of the secret, which has been called the third secret, was revealed in June of 2000. St. John Paul II heroically had it revealed, and you can Google it. It's certainly online. It speaks about a bishop dressed in white that Sister Lucia did identify as the person of St. John Paul II. So it tells us there's an immediate relevance to this third secret message. And there's reference of him walking with halting step through a city in ruins, and a series of martyrdoms take place, after which the Holy Father himself is killed by arrows. But then the angels take up the blood of the martyrs, and in crystal asperstoriums, they sprinkle it upon the faithful and upon the world. So what does that mean? Well, it's a very symbolic message, but I think if we understand that prophecy is always intended to save souls, prophecy is not given to satisfy human curiosity. It's a knowledge of the future to help us to convert better. So I would underscore the legitimacy of understanding the third secret as something we still have to pray about, we still have to meditate on. We're seeing Christian martyrdom like never before in things that are happening like ISIS, as you comment. So again, Pope Benedict XVI Emeritus on his way to Fatima was asked about the third secret, and his response was, yeah, it's still going on. It's still taking place, and I would agree with that. I think there's plenty in the news and going on in the world that would call us to pray the rosary every day, which Our Lady of Fatima said was not just for personal sanctification, it was for peace in the world. So it has a global impact, and also that we're called to work for the triumph of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, which she said at the end will bring forth a time of peace. So it's eminently relevant to today, and that's the heart of the Fatima secrets.
Thanks, Bill, so much for your call in Buffalo. Yeah, go ahead, Mark. All right, Bill, thank you for joining us here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. John, also been holding quite a while. He is in Hanceville, Alabama, a place many of our listeners have been, listening to EWTN Radio on Guadalupe Radio. Hi, John. Welcome to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Hi, thank you for taking my call today. I just wanted to kind of share some stuff. I have a question for Dr. Mark there, but I also wanted to kind of reiterate again about the consecration. I'm involved here with the Fatima Apostolate, founded by Father Fox. He founded the organization in 1986 and was really close to the message of Fatima. So I have just some information I wanted to share. Father Fox years ago received a letter from Sister Lucia saying that the consecration was done. And Father passed away it'll be 7 years in November. And I couldn't find this original letter anywhere. Well, I finally found the letter this year, and it has her original signature And it also has a letter with it from a graph analysis saying that this is her signature. So it's a very significant piece to this puzzle because, like Dr. Mark said, we get calls and emails about the consecration all the time, and people are just confused and sometimes misled about it. And I think what I try to tell them is that we should just live the message and not the controversy, and that is what he reiterated: pray the rosary every day for peace, wear the brown scapular, do the first Saturday devotion, and also make a consecration to the Blessed Mother. Mm-hmm. And but one of the questions I actually have two things. One was the 100th anniversary of the Angel of Peace is actually this year. The Angel of Peace came in 1916 spring through the three children. And one of the things that's always been a mystery to me, and I've heard different stories, and I wonder if he might know anything about this. We know that an angel cannot consecrate the body and blood of our Lord. Where did the angel get the chalice and the host to give to the three children?
Yeah, it's a good question, John. First, let me just give a testimony to the great work of Father Robert Fox. What a hero of Fatima this priest was. I mean, he was truly exceptional, and his devotion and the fruits of his work were really ubiquitous. So, to the question of the host, remember that we think of hosts as only coming through consecration through a priest, but of course God is the source of all grace. He's the source of all sacraments. He's what St. Thomas Aquinas calls the principal cause, and the priest and the sacraments are the instrumental cause. So it's not difficult for God to create put forward a host for the sake of giving the host to the Fatima children to emphasize Eucharistic reparation. It's really a remarkable thing. We don't have time in the program to go through it, but essentially both at Fatima in those 1916, 1917 angel apparitions and with the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, for the first time in history, Jerry and Debbie and John, we have Our Lady, we have God and Our Lady calling us to offer consecrated hosts back to God, and it's as if what the priest does is unique to priesthood. We know that none of us can consecrate, but the next best thing we can do as non-priests is to offer the consecrated host back to the Father, so He responds not in justice but in mercy. It's a beautiful spirituality, and it really starts in 1916 with the Fatima apparitions you're talking about, John, and then it's also encompassed in the Divine Mercy novena as well, in the chaplet. So, but God is not dependent on a priest to have the host come forward, of course, because He is the ultimate source of the sacraments. So that would be the answer to your question.
John, does that work for you?
About the Angel of Peace this year is that it coincides with Pope Francis has brought for us with the Jubilee Year of Mercy. When you go through that devotion, I just hope that people can go through that part, because a lot of the movies and the different programs, they always leave out the apparitions of the angel. And it's a very important for this year, especially with its 100th anniversary celebration, to go through that during this Jubilee Year of Mercy. And but
I would agree. Very beautiful messages and very strong on Eucharistic reparation. And remember, that's where the kids asked the angel, how do we make sacrifice? The angel came and said, make more sacrifices. And that Lucia said, how do we do that? And the answer was very simple. Make of everything you can a sacrifice and offer it to the Most High God. That means, traffic. That means long lines. That means dishes. That means cleaning. That means, correcting finals. Anything can be made a sacrifice that can save souls. And so it's a powerful message. And as you say, John, it comes from these 1916 apparitions. I appreciate you accentuating that.
We talked about that on a previous show, Dr. Mark. You'd be proud of us. It was very good. John, I know you said you had a couple things you wanted to share. We've got absolute full phone lines, and so many have been waiting so very long like you. But if you had something else, real quickly, did you want to share something else real quick before
I just wanted to ask him if he can elaborate more on the devotion to the Immaculate Heart, because I think a lot of people don't understand that. But I'll let you go. I'll hang up, and I appreciate you all taking my call today.
Absolutely, John. Thank you, Dr. Mark. Let's hold, if you can hold that, because I just want to get to, we have a patience award we got to give out to Marianne in New Jersey. Yes, we give this virtual patience award. I don't know if you did it in class, Dr. Mark, in Steubenville, but we give
they should all get perpetual patience awards. That's very identified.
But Marianne and John was so gracious. He was so good. Thanks, John, for those wonderful comments. God bless you for your comments. Marianne, you do get the patience award in New Jersey, listening on EWTN radio. God bless you. You got that award. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but I hope it looks nice on your shelf. Welcome to Take Two.
Thank you. I'm going to Catholic school for kindergarten to 8th grade, and then high school. I've learned a lot about Our Lady and Fatima and the story and everything, and watching it on TV. But I was just wondering, is there a book that someone can recommend that would really get in a lot deeper that I can read and enjoy?
Well, I mean, if you're talking about depth, there's nothing better, in my opinion, than the words of Sister Lucia herself. So I think it's called Fatima in Sister Lucia's own words. It's the memoirs of Sister Lucia. And they're profound and beautiful. And then she also came out with a book in 1997, which was called Echoes. I think the English translation was Calls from the Message of Fatima. Marianne, it is the most beautiful spiritual reading. I mean, I think it's going to be one of the 10 greatest classics. I mean, it's just extraordinary, but very easy reading, but de profundis, really, from the depths. So I would direct you to Sister Lucia's own words, and they're really exceptional, and it really moves your heart to understand, like what Debbie was saying earlier in the program, what she had to go through as a child, and then even as a 90-year-old nun, waiting for these things to happen. I mean, imagine talk about the Patience Award. I think Sister Lucia's got to get it, because she got this message at 10, and still in her 90s, elements were not fulfilled, and yet she had to just abandon herself to God's will and continue to do her part in terms of all that she was called to do with the Fatima message. So I would direct you to those. Also, anything by Father Robert Fox, as we just heard from John, is also really excellent on Fatima as well.
Thanks, Marianne, for the call.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Appreciate hearing from you. I think sometimes people think that it would be really, really cool and glamorous or something to be a seer in an apparition, but I think that the life that those are called to, and as you said earlier, Mark, I mean, it's to the humble and the lowly that God appears, but there's a cost to that too in many cases, and we saw that with the Fatima children. So appreciate all of your calls. We're going to go next to Paul in Southern California, listening to EWTN Radio on Sirius XM 130. Hi, Paul. Welcome.
Oh, thank you very much. Speaking, Mark, I just had a question to ask you. If you could go more into detail on the 5 Saturdays and what they entail, and I know that each one stands for some kind of reparation against the Immaculate Heart of Mary.
Yes, very good question, Paul. So this brings us to December 10th, 1925, and instead of little Lucia, it's now Sister Lucia, who's in a convent in Spain. And our Lord and our Blessed Mother appear. Our Lord appears as a child, and our Blessed Mother is holding our Lord. But Mary takes her heart from her chest, as it were, and shows it to Lucia. And first, the Christ child speaks. And the child says, "Make reparation, have mercy on the heart of my mother that's offended at every moment by the ingratitude and blasphemies of mankind." So it's first Jesus who asks us to make reparation to his mother's heart. And this is important for people that say, all this Mary stuff, I don't know, where's Jesus in all this? Jesus is right in the heart of it. In fact, it's at Jesus' request that we are called to offer reparation to his mother's heart. So then Mary says, "Look, my daughter, at my heart, again, offended at every moment by the blasphemies of man. You at least try to make reparation by doing the following things, and to pass on my promise that those who do this will receive the graces necessary for salvation." So this is nothing less than the promise of salvation by the Mediatrix of all graces, through the Vatican II Lumen Gentium 62 said she distributes the gifts of eternal life. So this is completely within her jurisdiction for those who do the following on 5 consecutive first Saturdays. Number 1, go to confession, although there can be an 8-day gap on that on either side based on pastoral needs of getting to confession. Confess, receive Holy Communion, pray 5 decades of the Rosary, and meditate for 15 minutes on any of the mysteries. All 4 of those things have to be done with this intention. As Debbie was saying earlier, intention is important. With the intention of making reparation to Our Lady's heart, making reparation to her heart. For those who do that for 5 consecutive first Saturdays, she promises to intercede for the gifts of salvation. Now, I would say this too, Paul, as we look at the world and we realize that Mary is the mother of every single human being, how many of them are responding in love? We've got 7 billion people out there. And we can't read hearts, but just by deduction, there's got to be less than 20% of people that are even Catholic, let alone that are properly acknowledging the heart of Mary. So we have Catholic, we have the Orthodox. So the point is, there's great need for reparation. It's like a family of 5 kids, and let's say for some sad reason the kids reject the parents, and it's unjustified. And the parents are devastated. But the 5th kid comes up and says, Mom and Dad, I don't know why they rejected you. That was not right. I'm so sorry, and I love you. Well, that's reparation. And in many ways, we're that 5th kid. We have to make reparation for the many, the millions, even the billions, who are not responding to Mary's heart. So I would say this. That's the promise of the 5 First Saturday devotion. But we don't do it just for the promise. We do it because we know Our Lady's heart continues to suffer today, and we want to keep making that reparation. So I encourage people always, not only to do it for the 5 First Saturdays, but make it a consistent practice, because the mother's heart deserves it, and the mother's heart is continuing to suffer because of the blasphemies and ingratitude of so many. But that's the heart of the 5 First Saturday devotion.
Well, you covered it, Dr. Mark. You covered it so well. Paul, thank you so much for bringing up that question. It helped all of us. I think many of us took notes on that. And I also think that you touched upon the devotion to her Immaculate Heart, which John was talking about. He wanted you to really go into a deeper detail of, so that thank you so much for doing that. And thank you, Paul, for the question. Okay, real quickly, we're going to go to Barbara. You're going to finish off our show today. We wanted to get to you. We got to all the calls today. This is exciting. You're listening to EWTN Radio in Rochester, New York on the Station of the Cross. Barbara, we only have about 3.5 minutes, but you can do it. I know you can. Welcome.
Oh, hi. Thank you. I'm just looking at Our Lady of Fatima by William Thomas Welsh. And
yes.
On page 221, he says, what Our Lady wants is that the Pope and all the bishops in the world shall consecrate Russia to her Immaculate Heart on one special day. If this is done, she will convert Russia and there will be peace.
Right. Well, that's certainly the case. And, of course, you have to remember that book was written in the 1940s. So, and what had happened is Pius XII in 1942 had made a consecration, but Sister Lucia said, but it wasn't collegial, that Our Lady wanted the bishops of the world to join the Holy Father. That's why what John Paul II does on March 25th of 1984 is collegial. The vast majority of the bishops of the world do join him, and that's why both John Paul II and Sister Lucia would properly confirm that it's been done. Now, some people will say, oh, Russia is not completely converted yet, and that's true, and yet there's other elements of Fatima. That's why, again, rather than focus too much on the consecration, we have to live the Fatima message. Daily rosary, making of everything we can a sacrifice, and those 5 First Saturday devotions in reparation of the Immaculate Heart. We do that as a nation, we do that as a world, and we will see the full fruit of the conversion of Russia and the promise of peace in the world, as she promised on that July 13th message.
All right, Barbara, thank you for the call. As Debbie indicated, we are just running out of time. We have just about a minute and a half here. Dr. Mark Miravalle of Franciscan University, thank you so much for being with us here on the program today. Next year, of course, the 100th anniversary, every anniversary of Fatima, a very big celebration, very important this year, today, 99 years. Tomorrow, not tomorrow, but next year, do you see any graces? The church numbers and anniversaries are always very, very important. So, what are your thoughts on the upcoming 100th anniversary?
Yeah, Jerry, I think it's going to be a huge year. I think there's going to be a lot of Marian devotions. There's already a series of conferences that are happening internationally. In fact, I'm working with a gentleman from England about a type of World Youth Day at Fatima, where we're expecting about 50,000 young people in August of next year, which would end with the consecration of the two hearts. So I see a lot of graces, a lot of blessings, but as always, Jerry and Debbie, we have to open our hearts. So we've got to do our part with things like rosary, scapular, and consecration. We do our part, and we can be guaranteed Our Lady of Fatima will give extraordinary graces in this 100th anniversary that will be approaching.
Beautifully said. Dr. Mark, we like to put people on the spot when they're... Oh, did I say that? Sorry. We like to put people on the spot on the air. Would you come back again and visit us? You are fabulous.
No, we think... listen, I'd be happy to come back.
Okay, good. We've got it now globally, so...
I'm only plagiarizing the church, so... If that's what you like, I'm happy to do that. So
you're on safe ground.
Right. Where can people find you? Where can people find you? At markmiravalle.com?
Yeah, we've got markmiravalle.com. We've got motherofallpeoples.com. There's about 5,000 articles on Our Lady on that as a resource.
Wow. Awesome.
Yeah, we'll post those to the Take Two Show website. Well, Mark, thank you so much for being with us here on the program today. Always great to get caught up with you. Thanks for the fine work that you're doing in this area of Mariology and Fatima in particular. And I know Debbie and I think we can speak for our listeners that we all learned a great deal today.
Absolutely. I wish I was in one of your classes. Yeah, Jerry, you were very blessed to be in his class.
Yes,
I can tell
Debbie.
you that.
Yeah, great.
Well, we thank God and blessed feast day to you two and to all our listeners. It's really a day of a lot of grace today as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. And dear listeners, don't forget to stay tuned in to EWTN, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Call to Communion has guest hosts today, Marcus Grodi and Doug Keck. That's going to be a great show, so stay tuned in to EWTN, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Call to Communion. Jerry, my takeaway is I am going to read everything I can on Sister Lucia. I just think this was absolutely an amazing show. Go, Jerry.
Yeah, I think it was fantastic as well, and let us all just deepen our love for Mary, because what does she want? One thing. She wants to lead us to the heart of her Son.
Absolutely. And dear listeners, we just thank you so much. Your questions were fabulous. You drove the show. We can't wait to see you on Monday. Mondays, we're talking about being misunderstood. I guess that's our topic, being misunderstood.
Right.
Oh, that's going to be...
like you're misunderstood.
Wow. Well, until then, have a beautiful and blessed weekend. See you on Monday.